Okay, so 1, 5, and 6 would have been triangles, and then 3, 2, and 4 would have been quadrilaterals. Okay, also, when I walked around, somebody said they did dilations versus not dilations. So that would have been, which cards were not dilations? 4 and 6. So 4 and 6 are not dilations because they are what? What's true about these shapes? They're congruent, and dilations do not keep shapes congruent. So these two would be congruent shapes, and the other 4 would be dilations. Everybody agree with that? Okay. I heard some different ways. Somebody tell me a different way that you grouped them. Was there anybody who did something different? Caroline, what did you do? Okay, so shapes that had right angles would have been 4, 6, 1, 2, and then the other two shapes, 3 and 5, did not have right angles. Anybody do something different? Okay, so then just trying to get you to understand that there's a lot of different ways we could have put them into categories. The big idea that we're going to focus on today, though, is dilations and the concept of similarity. And so we're going to be looking at transformations that also include dilations today, connecting it back to when we did reflections, rotations, and translations. So we're going to be putting all of that together today in terms of a dilation. So now what I want to do is I'm going to give you about 4 to 5 minutes. You are going to take your card with your partner and you guys are going to write down on a separate sheet of paper. Please don't write on the cards because I'm going to use these for all of my classes. So I don't want anything written on them. So on your actual notes here in your workbook, down here at the bottom, you're going to list a series of transformations that take one shape onto the other. Is what we're looking at. And Kaden and Cheney said we're going to dilate triangle QOR, so the small one, from point O, meaning that our center is point O, by a scale factor of, and it is perfectly fine to put 1.5, but it is also better sometimes to leave it as an improper fraction 3/2. The reason is because it's giving you the relationship of the ratio of one side to the other side. Whereas when it's a mixed number, it doesn't specifically say this side to this side. Does that make sense? So love that you're putting it as a mixed number in terms that you know how to, but let's leave our scale factors as improper fractions, reduced. So if it had been 6/4, we would want to write it as 3/2. So great job there. Do you guys agree that if we dilate this small triangle by a scale factor of 3/2 or 1.5, that it would give us this triangle here? Whole class, do you agree with that? How did they get their scale factor of 3 to 2 or 1.5? Okay, so image over pre-image. And so they're saying that they're taking the little triangle and making it into a big triangle. So they did 7.5 divided by 5. Do you agree that that is 3 to 2? Yes. Okay, so good job. Okay, so they have this shape here. This was card 2. They said to dilate quadrilateral G by a scale factor of 4. What is your center of your dilation? So none of them have, they do have letters down here. So which one were you dilating about? E or D, whichever one, because it's the same. So really you only need one letter there, right? They shouldn't have 2 different letters when you're naming an object. I'm just going to call it D. But if it's the same point, it should have the same letter, okay? So they're saying dilate this small shape by a scale factor of 4, since we're using G, centered at this point that they have in common, this common vertex. So does everybody agree that if we dilate by 4, that 3 will become 12? And that if we dilate from this point, it's going to make this side land on top of itself. And then it'll go out 4 this way, out 4 times 4 this way. So 12 units, 12 units, and 12 units. Are we following how that would turn out looking? Okay. So then they said, and then reflect across AB, and it would be AD. Okay. So I'm going to change that to AD. So reflect across AD so that they coincide. When you say reflect, what are we reflecting? Which shape? Okay, the new one. So that would be G prime. All right. So we're going to reflect the new G prime across this line, which was AD, which would make it land on top of it. Everybody agree that that's correct? Good job.